The first thing you do is take the current deadbolt on your door off, and you're just going to use the front piece where the key goes. Okay? First thing you need to determine is the tail piece, which is the piece that sticks out here. Is it flat like this one, or is it a square box? Because that determines which of the two gears you use. If it was a square box, you would use the gear that had the square box. In this case, it's a flat tail piece. Now we're going to use the gear that has the cross in it, so the flat tail piece will fit into it. So that determines the gear you use. Okay? Second of all, we need to determine which of the mounting brackets that come in the package, there's 6 of them, which one you use for your particular lock. You take the piece with the flat side up and you put it over the tail piece and see if you can see the screw holes in the lock head directly through with the tail piece in the center. Now that we've determined which mounting bracket we're going to use based on the hole spacing, you need to take the mounting screws that held the lock on the door and drop them in the mounting plate and make sure they are below the surface of the plate. They can't stick out like this or like this. They have to be down flush. Most of the time when you've picked the right plate, it will be the right plate for the screws. Now that we've determined which gear we're going to use, in the package there is a little metal spring ring. We have to make sure that we put that in the groove that's on the end of the gear. That metal ring is on because that's what's going to hold the gear in when we mount the gear. Once we have removed the deadbolt from the door, before we do anything else, we need to draw a level center line from the center of the bolt hole all the way down the door. Okay? You take the metal piece that has the half moon hole in it. It's going to line up with the flat half moon on the bracket and fit right in the hole. Take your lock, put it on the door, and screw the screws into the mounting holes in the lock. Get them started by hand. Then take a screwdriver and tighten them up just snug. Okay? Using a regular screwdriver, re-loosen just a little, take a square and make sure that the bracket is square to the door. Okay? Now you can tighten down the screws that mount the lock head on the door. Get them snug on both sides. Do not over tighten, but they must be good and tight and snug. Okay? Now, once this is mounted, you pre-drill the 4 little holes and then mount this to the door with the 4 screws provided in the screw pack. The next part to install is the black cushion that goes on the front edge of the door. There's a little cutout in the back of it that fits over the edge of the plate that you just mounted. Mount it, hold it up tight and snug. The front edge of it should be flush with the edge of the door. Mark, pre-drill, and then using the 2 flathead screws in the kit, mount it to the door also. Okay? Next thing is we need to determine where the black slide mount needs to go on the door. Okay? Now that's determined by the front plastic piece that mounts right to the edge of the door, right flush with the edge of the door on that black piece that you just mounted. There are 2 cutouts in the black slide mount that the end of the black piece mount into. Once that's been secured, then with this hole on your center line, take and mark where it goes. Okay? Pre-drill, and using the 5 flathead screws in the kit, mount that to the center line. With everything mounted on the center line, pre-drill the other 2 holes at the end, and mount the screws there. Then take off the plastic cover, pre-mark and pre-drill the other 2 holes, and mount those 2 screws into the door where this is mounted directly in line with the original hole. Now, there are 2 pieces to the slide. One piece goes with the big hole in it, goes up by the lock. The one with the single hole goes to the back. There is a mounting piece that slides in. Short screw and bolt. Okay. Go on. And using a wrench, holding the nut with a crescent wrench, using a flat blade in your drill or a flat blade screwdriver, tighten that down snug. Make sure that the piece is perpendicular with the end of the mounting bracket. Pre-designated holes, and then pre-drill them. Put your 3 screws in the pre-drilled holes. And mount the back side of the slide to the door. This should be all the way out within an inch of the hinge on the door. We now have to assemble the slide, which consists of 3 pieces. You have a thin, small piece with a small, elongated hole in it. Notice that there are 3 holes in the back of the slide. That goes to the back of the slide. You have another piece with 3 holes in it that match up to the 3 holes that are already there. That slides in. You have 3 screws with star washers, 3 small bolts. These line up through the holes in the slide. Line up the 3 holes, the one in the slide, the one on the piece on the back, and the piece that has the gear track in it. Line them up with the holes that are in the back. Those have the threads. And screw in the other 2 bolts. Okay, now this and the gear, this slides on the slide that you've already mounted, lines up till the edge of the lock is level with the edge of the door, with the gears to the right. So when you turn it, the gears turn to the left. Towards the front. Now you do not snug this up. There has to be room for it to slide. Next is to put the striker plate in that the lock mounts to, or the lock locks to. As you can see, we have to cut out a piece of the molding for the striker plate to fit on the door properly. In order to do that, you can put the cover over the lock and line up the cover for the striker plate with the cover for the lock itself, and draw a line below or above and below on the molding, and then come back and cut out the molding to match where that's going to fit when the lock is completely installed. So now to get the striker plate on, you go.
Where you looking at?
The thumb turn here underneath the coat. Alright. Using the thumb turn, open the bolt, see where it's going to hit the door, and mark the bottom and the top of it. With the striker plate, mount the hole where those bolt holes are. You will mark the top and bottom of the striker plate, and then you will cut that out, the thickness of the striker plate. This is a 1-inch hole that's drilled in the center where the bolt is going to go. Once you have that done where the striker plate fits in, you've cut out the molding, you've cut out the edge of the door, you've got the striker plate fitted in, you take the long 5/32 drill bit that comes in the kit, you drill true 30-degree angle, not 90, they're 30-degree angle holes in. And then you can mount cut that. Jesus. You'll have one more big screw. The striker plate wraps around through the hole that you cut in the molding. Last big screw anchors it down. You should now be able, you've still got this piece of molding on. You have a back piece of molding which covers the back, slides into position. You have the molding that goes over the striker plate. Screw was here 2 seconds ago. Have a small screw that attaches the thumb turn to the lock. And you're locked in.